You're listening to the Jam Price Show today, all about movies. And my guest today is Gia Crovatin. I hope I've said that right.
It's Crovatin, but that's okay.
Crovatin, okay. Gia Crovatin. I should have asked you ahead of time. And we're
Okay.
yeah, we're going to talk about this one. I really did love this movie entitled Fear the Night. And Gia is one of the stars of Fear the Night. So welcome to the show, Gia.
Thank you for having me, Jan.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's a pleasure. In full disclosure, for a number of reasons, first we were scheduled to have her husband on the show,
Yes,
who
that's
is the
right.
writer and director of Fear the Night, and because of the writer's strike, he has decided to be in solidarity and to support the writer's strike and not appear on the show today to promote Fear the Night. So I'm so happy that his lovely, beautiful wife has agreed to be on the show to talk about this movie because I really, really did. I was pleasantly surprised. Let me just say that.
I'm really happy to hear you say that because when I read the script, I too was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating film, and it had me from the beginning to the end. I even screamed in my own
Oh,
home watching it by myself.
sorry about that.
Yeah, so that says a lot. And but there's a lot to this film. And it would really be interesting to talk to you about it because your husband wrote it, and I really want to get your perspective on how he wrote this too, because I really feel it's a female flick. I mean, it
Yeah,
really is. So,
it really is. Well, something that's really interesting is that early on in our marriage, we've been married since 2016. I went to a bachelorette party, like a vacation bachelorette party, and we had an incident happen. It was obviously nothing as crazy as this movie. But when I came home and I was talking to Neil about it and telling him about it, he was like, his first instinct was, man, that would make a great story. And so I think that was kind of one of the genesis of this story, but also with the clarion call of having more content that's female driven and that has these flawed protagonists, but also about how do women deal with things together. I think that was really exciting for him, and also to put a bunch of badass ladies together. I think not a lot of people would expect that from Neil the Beaut.
no. So that's why I was pleasantly surprised. So our audience knows what we're talking about. Why don't you give them the synopsis of what Fear the Night is all about, Gia?
Sure. So Fear the Night is I would call it a thriller, a tense thriller about focusing on a woman named Tess, who goes to her little sister's bachelorette party, which is one of these destination bachelorette parties at an old family farm. And she's kind of Tess is the black sheep of the family. She's played exquisitely by Maggie Q. And they invite some girlfriends, some kind of a group of friends. There are three main sisters, Tess being the middle sister, and the youngest being Rose, played by Heidi Kwan. And the bachelorette party goes awry. It's like the worst day. These ladies have the worst luck, and some really bad dudes come and want these women, for whatever reason, to pay for something. And it's a fight to survive, and it really is an invasion slash survival story, and how disparate groups have to put aside their differences to come together to like ultimately save themselves.
Beautiful, beautiful way of describing it. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. It is uh it isn't. Let's talk about all the different characters because they're all so diverse in this film, and let's talk about your character and her part in this film.
Yeah, so I play the role of Mia, and Mia is a friend of the sisters, grew up with them, free spirit. I think what's interesting is that we don't particularly follow a lot of the friends. I think there's 8 total women, so 5 friends and 3 sisters. We don't really get the backstory of the friends. They just kind of show up at this party and they're ready to light it up. And what's interesting is that sometimes I think your best helper can come out of nowhere, or a complete stranger, and you'll find that there's been connection between Mia and Tess as the film goes on, and that they've had a little bit of history together and known each other, maybe have grown up together in a way. But really, it's someone who's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But what I love is someone who finds through all this trauma and terror, like the courage within herself to try to do something brave and courageous.
Exactly, because how many of us have ever been put in that kind of a situation to begin with, and then what we learn about ourselves in that kind of situation and process, whether are we going to just cower and hide behind the couch and
exactly.
go away?
Right. And you see the myriad of reaction. You see that people react in such different ways. And that my character is this kind of free spirit hippie. She's going to read everybody's tarot cards at the party, but maybe she's the one who has, unexpectedly this kind of badass streak. It was such a fun character to play, and I feel so lucky. But all of the women, I mean, oh my God, there's so many good act. Kat Foster is just like working with her every night, because we shot all nights, and so it was like all the ladies were together in chairs huddling because it was so cold. We were in the desert in California, and I live in New York State, and I was just like, wow, it's as cold as it gets in New York State. I was not prepared for that.
Where were you? Where was this filmed?
This was so we shot in Piru, California, and then
where is it near? I have no idea.
It's within the zone. And so it's like within 45 minutes to an hour of LA, just north in the mountains. And it is beautiful. I mean, just gorgeous. But you get those 50-degree swings in a day. And there were rattlesnakes. I mean, it was wild, like the Wild West out there. So all the ladies, we'd be sitting together, like huddling, and it's 2 a.m. and we're just telling each other stories to keep each other like awake, but also energized, but also we're creating this intimacy in this connective tissue. And I loved it so much. It was like having sisters for 21 days. It was so great.
I was going to ask you how long the shoot was. Okay. And what is this? I mean, I had your husband on the show last October, I think it was, for a Heart of Darkness. Yeah.
House of Darkness.
House of Darkness. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Him and darkness and houses.
And houses and nights and
yeah.
I don't know. He's got a streak there.
Yes. We'll have to see what the next one is. Are you in the next movie?
I can only imagine.
I want to know, was there a casting couch in this film?
Yeah, no, we do everything by the book here.
Well, you've appeared in a number of your husband's films through the years, and he said so. Sometimes he doesn't hire you.
It's true. Sometimes he doesn't. But Neil has this like history of picking up people along the way and working with them a ton, like Aaron Eckhart or Fred Weller, or he's Tommy Sadowski. He's super loyal, and like, we talk a lot. As an actor, I knew Neil as a writer, playwright, really first, before I knew him as my husband, as my partner in life. And it's always been about the work for me. And so, we talk a lot about when you find someone who just understands the language, when you have a shorthand together and you can communicate almost without words. Sometimes we're kind of on a very similar wavelength. It makes working together really easy and enjoyable, and it's fun to do. But yeah, it's true. I did his film House of Darkness last year with Justin Long and Kate Bosworth, and that was another insane 3-week all-night shoot. Crazy.
It was. Well, I told him that you were beautiful in that interview, and I didn't know you were his wife at that time. He goes, well, she's my wife. I said, oh. Well, you have good taste.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh man, it's too funny.
Okay, so this movie to me is a female revenge movie on so many levels, because there's so many, again, layers to each one of the characters in this film, but that epilogue really cements it,
right,
for me.
It's interesting without giving too much away. Right. It's just like there's something in the air, right? I mean, there's something in our society that, like, even when this bad stuff happens to women and we go through it and our scars are shown and our vulnerability is shown, you're still questioned at the end of the day. It's still like, did this really happen? Are you sure? You know, I think about the Dr. Christine Blasey Ford a lot, and what she went through. And I think like trauma is just so, it's so corrosive. And to be able to say, like, I've gone through this thing and you've witnessed this thing, and yet we still are being asked questions, but only the women really know what happened and what went on. And that's kind of the tie that binds us. It's a really fascinating commentary, coming from Neil, coming from all of us who collaborated to make this film.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it really is. And that's what I said, to have a man write this film, I felt was fascinating, because it's definitely obviously it's a female, as I said earlier, it's a from the female perspective on all the different levels, but that he was sensitive and understood where
Right.
we are all coming from, even today. It's just, I think we're progressing, but I don't know if we are or not.
I know. It's just really, it's so troublesome. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, people have labeled Neil as a misogynist in the past, or he's the great misanthrope. And
Right.
I would venture to say Neil's specialty is human cruelty,
Mm.
and the bounds to which we do these things to each other, and why we do them, and is it just because we can? It's ever so fascinating to me. That's why I'm an actor. I want to know why people do the things that they do. And I think Neil is just a beautiful scribe of that experience.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked last time too about In the Company of Men, which was his first film. And that was the first time I had attended the Sundance Film Festival. And that was the film that everybody was talking about at the festival that year. And yes, and Aaron Eckhart, who I adore, that was one of the films I've always thought he was really excellent in. He's excellent in almost everything he does, but
He's so good, and he's such a decent human being, which is like the best.
yeah, he is I don't know him personally, but it's nice to hear
He's
that.
a lovely, he's a lovely fella.
Okay, good to hear that. So let's talk about Maggie Q, because she is excellent in this film. And again, another actress who, she's obviously getting more and more of a reputation as being that badass woman,
Yeah.
in a lot of her films and TV shows too. But let's talk about working with her and what was that like?
She just brings an energy and a kind of gravitas with her when she's on set. And I think she had a very clear vision of Tess. And I know that she and Neil had so many Zoom meetings and calls and back and forth discussion about the look, about the vibe, about I think Maggie's done work with veterans before. It was really important for her to have a very particular energy about that character. And it was like she came to set and she was Tess. It was there. And not that she was method and or anything like that, but that she had it when she stepped onto the set. And we all kind of were like, okay, this is our leader. This is our number one, and we are with you. And the movie lives and dies with you, but we're going to be here to support you. And she was, very generous and cool and kind. And I just feel lucky to have worked with her and to watch her, be able to handle things. We were in really tough conditions, and it was late nights, and the poor crew, they're driving with terrible LA traffic in the morning. We'd end shooting at 7 a.m. and they're going into town, having to drive like sometimes a 2-hour commute home at the end of a 12-hour workday. And it was hard, but she really had this kind of tenacity the whole time. And just seeing her, sometimes you could see the transformation in her eye. I mean, it just was incredible. There's a reason that she's so good and known for doing these kinds of action roles, because she just has her finger on the pulse of what it is to be this person. And she had very particular ideas about Tess, and she's done work with, she talked to us about the work she's done with veterans and what it means to be an addict and all of that. And I know she had lots of conversations with Neil about the look and the feeling of Tess and how outsider she is. So you get the sense that among these women, it really is going to be tough for her to kind of rally everybody. But it was just amazing. She just was Tess. She just showed up on set as Tess, was our fearless leader. And man, I would do anything for that chick. She's really badass.
Well, she certainly is in this movie for sure.
Yeah. And in life too. Again, like another person who is kind and generous and, like just wanted the best for the production.
And that's great. That's what you want in the any of the actors that you're working with. You're all in this together, and especially with independent films too. I mean, you don't have the big Hollywood budget that many of the other films have, and that's one of the reasons I love doing what I do. And I've talked about this many, many times is, showcasing independent films and documentaries that don't get the opportunity to be showcased that often. Everybody wants the big name stars all the time. Not that I wouldn't want to have Brad Pitt on the show, but that's not what the show is about, so it is about that. And that's why the kind of work that you and your husband are doing, broadens the scope of independent film in a many different ways, and that's wonderful that you in that.
Well, it's all comes down to good stories at the end of the day, and I love there's nothing else I've ever wanted to do in my life. This is all I've ever wanted to do, and being a storyteller and helping people understand their humanity a little bit better, or just feel less alone, feel like they're going through stuff. I feel like the pulse of that has always been in independent film or theater. I mean, most of my favorite movies are from decades ago because we don't have the CGI. We don't have the IP of the reboot after reboot, which are all so fun and great. But the stuff that really gets you, the stuff that gets your heart, Francois Truffaut, I mean, that gets me. Sofia Coppola's Virgin Suicides, that blew my mind when I first saw it. And I'm so grateful to be a part of the independent world.
Yeah. And when you say the classics too, I mean, I'm a big fan of Turner Classic Movies, and we've all heard what's going on over there.
Yes.
And all the hosts have been on my show numerous times, and I go to the Turner Classic Movie Film Festival every year. And we'll see what happens, with what's going on. But we need to have a place to see these because, go ahead, Gia.
No question. No, Turner Classic Movies is always on at our home. My daughter seeing Gene, my daughter's 3, our daughter Neil, and I have a daughter, she's 3.5, seeing her watch Gene Kelly do his huge, fabulous dance sequence in Singing in the Rain while he's in the rain. I mean, watching her face light up, or Fred Astaire dancing on the ceiling. I'm a big movie musical person.
Me too.
She's watching these, and Ginger Rogers. And then she, you see the power of old films and giving that knowledge and also connecting us to our past. But this is pure stuff. And it's so important that we keep that through line, that we have the ability to have it at our fingertips, like we have everything else at our fingertips. Why can't we have old classic cinema, Hollywood classic cinema? And I love what they're doing with the new programming and having more, people of color and women on, and we're just learning so much more. I just don't want Turner Classic Movies to go away or be taken away from us. It's such a resource.
I know. And I totally agree. So hopefully we will, I'm glad that they made a reversal and brought Charlie Tabish back, because he is, all of them were, but he's definitely the heart and soul of Turner Classic Movies for sure. And, when you watch these old movies, you're right, we don't have the same technology. They didn't have the same technology we do today. And it's just, it's pure. It's just a pure viewing experience. So anyhow, and that's kind of, what movies should be about, and that's what Fear the Night is about. It's just pure, it's a ride. It starts, and it takes you in, and you're invested, even though as you said, you don't get a lot of the background of the characters. You do as the movie unfolds, but you really with them in this film. For sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is kind of, you and I are talking on the day of the 12th, right? On July 12th. And the SAG-AFTRA strike is looming. If it's going to happen, the writer's strike is going on. And there's this kind of thread in the air about survival and how we have to stick together, even if we don't like each other, even if we don't agree on all the things. Like our commonality is our humanity. And if we can just focus on that, we can get through whatever we need to get through.
Yes, I agree 100%. And that's what this movie's about.
That's what this movie is about.
Went right back to the full circle there, Gia. I love it. Good girl. And
Also, can I just say there are no
Yeah.
guns in our film.
yes, I thought
There
that
are
was
no guns.
very interesting. Very interesting. And how did your husband make that choice? Do we want to say what they use or not?
I'm not going to say that it's
Okay.
creative weaponry, shall we
Yes.
say that? But I think, you know, we were getting ready to shoot, and there were originally guns written into the script, and then the Rust shooting happened, that horrible tragedy.
Mhm.
And Neil was just like, let's just not even bother. You know what? How can we make this just as scary without having guns? There was a real effort there to say, what can we do? How can we keep the tension and the terror without having to use guns? Because guns they're terrifying.
Right.
So I actually, the ladies, man, when we decide to fight back, that was super fun.
Yes, and I think what he decided to use was much scarier than
Yeah.
that he used guns, to be honest with you. And you're right, we have too many guns, too many movies with guns, and I think it just, again, it's like in our DNA consciousness anymore, that we just become immune to
Yeah,
see.
we're kind of almost numb to it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So what he used in this film is such a surprise. It really is. And just as lethal, if not more, in this
Well,
film.
it's so intimate. It's so personal, and you see the reaction of how close you are as the audience member, the viewing of what is happening to people in the moment of it happening. And we had, safety consultants, of course, people on set helping us make sure that this was realistic. And I think it's not like a super blood-soaked movie, but the violence is very particular, very necessary, and I don't know. I find it incredibly effective. But that's my take.
I agree. I mean, I agree. I think that's when I, screamed a lot.
Yeah.
in it. But again, the ingenuity of the women, because they didn't have any kind of weaponry to fight back.
Or skill set.
Yes.
The only person is Tess, who comes on saying, I was a military aide in Fallujah, and I, drove these armored vehicles. I mean, she's a trained person, but then you're having to rely on women who have, their training is at the Beverly Center.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, Gia, unfortunately, and I really, unfortunately, we need to wrap up. But where can people see Fear the Night?
Theaters and on demand on July 21st.
Great.
And I hope everybody has a great movie going experience. And man, I love making movies, and I love watching them too.
Yeah. Well, this is a good movie. It is a good summer movie. It's, you'll be thinking about it afterwards. There'll be discussions afterwards, because it's not just a thriller. There's a lot more to it. So, Gia, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was such a pleasure getting to talk with you, and I look forward to having you back. Maybe we'll have Neil and you back on the next project that you have.
You would love it. Thank
Great.
you, Jan.
Thank you. Good luck with the film.